Ako si Krisha Mae Magallanes from Bachelor of Arts in English Language. And this is my story. To be honest, I don't think my story is defined by any dramatic turning points or life-changing breakthroughs. If anything, my story is made up of ordinary days, repeated over and over again, and days that only became possible because of other people's sacrifices. Sang una, always ko gid ginaisip nga permi ko nabudlayan. But looking back now, I realize I had it easy. Because while I was studying, my parents were the ones who were carrying the difficult parts of life. When I entered college, my father had to work 2 jobs. Ginabulos-bulos ni Papa ang pagbiyahe bilang isa ka tricycle driver kag ang pag-duty as a security guard. It was only then that I fully realized why he had to do such things. Because I know nga, kung magsarig lang kami sa isaya ka obra, though imposible gid nga masustenerya ang amon nga pangabuhi. And my mother, on the other hand, stayed at home. But staying at home doesn't mean nga she's resting. Because I know that her days were also as full as my father's. She took care of everything behind the scenes, from the meals, sa pagpanilo sa balay, and to everything just to make sure nga komportable ang amon nga pangabuhi sa balay. For a long time, I thought my responsibility was simple. Mabugtaw, makadto sa eskwelahan, magtuon, kag magpuli. Only I did realize later that my simple routine existed because my parents' lives were never simple. Si Papa duwa iya obra. Si Mama ginasigurado nga maayos tanan samon nga balay. And despite all of this, all they asked of me was to make the most out of my education. And that realization slowly changed the way I looked at studying. People sometimes imagine that graduating with honors comes from pressure or strict expectations. But to be honest, my parents never demanded excellence from me. They never said, kailangan may honor ka, kinanglan mag-graduate ka with Latin, kinanglan malabot mo gid ni. Honestly, my parents never pressured me. They never asked me to be the best. But when you see people sacrifice for you every day without asking anything in return, you wanted to become someone who is worthy of those sacrifices. So, studying slowly became more than just a responsibility for me. It became my way of saying thank you. And even before I entered college, I knew nga daw alang-alang pa ko makabulig sa ila financially. So I made sure nga makabulig ko sa ila in other ways. And one of that is to ensure nga makapasar ako sa at least isa lang ka state university here sa Iloilo. Because that is my simple way of alleviating the burden sa shoulders ng parents ko, at least financially. And thankfully, I found my place in 𝐒𝐵𝐷. And in here, I pursued Bachelor of Arts in English Language. And I often hear remarks or questions like, why did I major in English? And I think that there is something poetic about it now. I spent years here studying language, how words shape meaning, how stories connect people, and how communication allows us to understand each other. But at home, I learned that the deepest forms of love were never always spoken. My father never sat me down and said, "Nagasakripisyo kami para sa imo." My mother never announced anything she did for me. She simply continued doing it every day. So, while I was learning language in school, I was also learning another kind of language at home. And that is the language of sacrifice, consistency, and quiet love. And maybe that is also why I unconsciously push myself to be better in school. Not because I always wanted to be on top, not because I always wanted to have the highest grades, but because I know what it cost me to simply sit in a classroom. And once you realize that someone is carrying that part of your future, you start treating opportunities differently. So, somewhere along the way, I stopped studying only to pass. I studied because I wanted their sacrifices to become visible. And whenever school became difficult, damo requirements, exhaustion, doubts na may ara ko sa kaugalingon ko, I would think, if my father can wake up and work again tomorrow, and if my mother can continue giving everything without asking anything in return, then surely I can endure one more hour of studying, one more requirement, one more day.
Actually, sometimes may kuan man may mga part man nga daw medyo kuan. Aplikado puti at least na karaos mga mi. Tingwaan din namon kay bala namon kita namon ang kuan niya mo. Ang iyang dedikasyon sa pagtuon. So amo nang ang tanan ginatagin namon siya. Suporta. May message ko, thank you. Kag padayon lang, are lang kami magsuporta sa imo.
And that thought carried me farther than motivation ever could. But even now, I cannot tell this story as if it were only about effort and perseverance. Because there were too many moments that felt bigger than my own strength. Too many doors that opened at the right time. Too many days when help arrived exactly when I needed it most. And that is why I believe that God is always in the details. It may not always be in grand miracles, and sometimes He appears in ordinary things, like in my father coming home safe after another long day of working 2 jobs, in my mother quietly preparing what I needed at home so I could focus on my studies, in finishing one more semester even when it feels heavy at times, and in every moment where I was given the strength to continue when I thought I had nothing left. Now, the more I think about it, the more I realize that I was not really building my future alone. I was simply living inside the consequences of my parents' sacrifices and the quiet mercy of God that I received in ways that I never realized at that time. And maybe when I received the news that I achieved something as high as that award, I felt so heavy. Not because I achieved something big, but because this success is not mine alone. It is also my parents. And this is my way of giving tribute to them. Once again, I'm Krisha Mae Magallanes from Bachelor of Arts in English Language, summa cum laude. Kag amo ni ang istorya sang akon paghimakas.